Hey everybody, welcome to Talk, Teach, Play. I'm Aaron Locks with the National Academy of Athletics, and I'm excited that you're going to spend some time with us today. This is an interesting topic and probably one that's maybe timely right now as we go forward, and dealing with the protocols and precautions about getting your kids back out there playing and keeping them safe. And I'm excited once again to have my good buddy, Dr. Michael Herbert with me. What's happening, Mike?
Hey, how's it going, Aaron? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Always love having you be able to join us. And you and I talk a lot offline, and some of the other conversations we've had in previous topics have been great. But this one, I think, is really going to hit home with a lot of you that are out there listening. If you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe. If you have, thank you for doing so. We're seeing great numbers and great responses. I appreciate it. And keep the questions coming in, because the questions that you guys send in to us, Mike and I and the other guests, we have these conversations. It really stirs the dialogue to help us help you as you go through the process. So again, Mike, let's just dig right in. When we talk about the protocols and precautions, I know it's different, a lot of different places, but what are precautions overview? Let's talk about a little bit what you're dealing with at the college level and kind of how you're kind of setting things up now.
Well, we take the lead from our local health authorities, right? They have the recommendations. They're the experts. We talk about that in sports, that you find your role, right? And my expertise is not in COVID or medical. So we talk to people, we listen to people, and they tell us, where to go. But, it's all the basic things, right? Wear a mask, clean before you play, after you play, clean the equipment. Depending on what the sport is, don't share equipment, those types of things. Have your own bat, have your own glove, don't share those types of things, but you're wearing your mask as much as you can. You're keeping your distance.
Right.
A lot of sports you can still compete with a mask on. It doesn't, you can throw a shot put and you can throw a baseball and you can swing a bat with a mask on. It's not going to impede your progress in some of those things. So I think most places are following those simple guidelines, right? Cleaning things, wearing a mask, and when you can social distance, you social distance as much as you can.
At the National Academy of Athletics, we put some protocols that we've rolled out, again, following what the Aspen Institute was talking about, the CDC, and us in the state of California, but we work in 21 counties. So every county's got a different set of guidelines. And I think it's important, if you're running a league or if you're coaching, you better pay attention to what your county guidelines are. And, Mike, we talked about this a little bit. I know you deal with your son's league, right? You volunteered, or your wife volunteered for you to get involved. I think it's important. And so if I'm a league, do you think it's important that we have somebody that is paying attention to this stuff? And how does that work? What do you think?
Absolutely. The deal with leagues, whether it's a private organization or a public or a nonprofit or whatever it is, you're using some space, right? You're using the county park, you're using the county field, you're using a high school or school district field.
Right.
If you're not following the guidelines that they have in place, they could pull that opportunity to use that space. So you've got to fall in line and follow those guidelines. And it's best practice for the kids, right?
Right.
To teach them to do those things and do it right. But really, you have to understand that there are other organizations, there are government entities that own those facilities and those spaces, and we have to follow those. I have to follow them here. So when I'm working with my son's team, we need to have those in place so that when we go to use the high school space, right, we're following the same guidelines and protocols that the high school is. It's just the right thing.
And the reality is it is about the safety of the kids, and whether we personally believe or feel, right, that I get that, but there's a part of it where you got to say, okay, you know what, this is for the better good. And I know we talked about this before, but I think about it in San Diego. I'm down there and I've got some parents, unfortunately, that for whatever reason have kind of said the masks don't really matter to them. I get it. But if in our program, if the league says you gotta wear a mask, you gotta wear a mask, right?
Yeah. Well, how about that lesson that you can learn at a young age? Hey man, you're gonna have to do things in life because people just tell you to do it.
Right.
You don't need to ask why, you don't need to know why, but you have to learn. We have to do things in our life sometime that we don't like or we don't agree with. And wearing a mask, to me, or washing your hands before or after, I'm just not willing to fight that battle. Like, okay, great, that's what you want me to do. I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to survive. I think that really, to me, is the bigger picture of teaching our kids. You can disagree with the rule. You can disagree with a guideline at your workplace, right?
Okay, right.
But while you disagree, and maybe even while you fight against it, and you're advocating like, I want to change this, I want to change this, you
Right.
still have to follow the rule while you're doing it.
Right.
You can't give the police officer that deal when he pulls you over and he says, well, you're driving 50 in a 25. Well, I don't like that speed limit.
Right. Exactly.
You're still getting the ticket, right?
You're going to take, yeah, you're still going to,
Still getting the
well,
ticket.
and the reality is that the leagues, like you said, and I think it's important to really follow this, guys, is if you don't follow this, you can actually cause challenges and problems for your league.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll get into the specifics. Today, we're going to talk, just so you guys know they're paying attention and listening to this, we're going to talk from the league perspective, from the coaching perspective, and from the parent perspective in terms of kind of different ways to look at this as we go forward. But all right, so you're a parent, I'm a parent. What precautions do you feel? Now, look, you may be a doctor. I don't play one on TV. We're not a medical doctor. I get it. But
Yeah.
but we gotta realize, how do we set our child up for success as we prepare them to go back and play? Whether it's a 9-year-old child or a 12-year-old child, how do we kind of prepare them mentally, physically ready to go, hey, we're going back. They haven't played, some in California, some haven't played 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we prepare them to go back out and do this?
Well, there's two sides. One, hopefully that coaches are prepared to slowly train kids back into shape, right? Because we don't want the overuse injuries. But for me as a parent at home, we're going over what the rules are. Like, hey, when you get in the car, you got your cleats, you got your bat, you got your mask. You got your hand sanitizer, and when practice is over, I'm picking you up, we're taking you home, you take a shower, we wash your gear, we wash your stuff.
Right.
So we get in that routine where it's second nature. It's just what you do. And that's, I think, normalizing the mask or the cleaning is
Right.
what we really should be doing as parents. Again, I cannot like it, but my child should not know that. That's that circle of care, right? He doesn't need to know that I disagree with something. I'm not talking politics with my 11-year-old.
Right.
He doesn't know where I stand on certain things. So I have to protect him and just go, hey, this is the rule. This is the guideline. If you want to play, you normalize it, and you hopefully prepare them for those types of things.
And the way the leagues, whatever they are that are set up, we don't have to take it to the extreme we're at now, but you could think of anything else. If they said no food or drink in the gym, stop bringing food or drink in the gym. It's just that simple, right? And again, we all think, oh, that's a stupid rule. I won't spill. I get it, but that's the rule. So I think at this point, what we've got to all kind of agree to, if we want kids to go back out and play, we got to follow the rules. And hopefully, as we go forward, little by little, those rules will adjust. And I see it again in all these different counties we work with. They're going from 12 kids in a cohort. Now it's 14. Now you can do larger groups. Now you can do this. And that's fine. I think the deal is, for me, and I agree 100%, when my kids go back out and play, I'm going to make sure they understand the rules, and I'm going to tell them why. Because I think if they understand the why, then they kind of get it a little bit. But I really like your, man, great idea. Don't muddy the water with your own opinion, because just like if I don't agree with how the coaches run an offense, right? I don't muddy the water there. Good point. All right.
Well, we had a parent meeting the other day, and one of the things came up about bats and buying bats, and they're so expensive. So I just jumped in and said, hey, can we all agree that our kids, we're going to get a bat for our child, and they're the only ones that can use the bat. Please don't have your kid, because I can't, they're $300-400 bats, and they drag them on the ground, they throw them against the fence. And one of the moms, brilliant, jumped in and said, well, due to COVID, you shouldn't be touching anybody else's equipment. I said, you're absolutely right. There's another piece of our COVID protocol that we're not sharing equipment. But that being proactive and explaining that, but the why is brilliant. Like, hey, we're trying to keep you safe, so that's why we're asking you to wear a mask. This is why we're having you clean.
When the kids know why, good things happen. So
absolutely.
So what do you think as a parent, as I'm going back to bring my kids out there, what should I expect to see now, right? I mean, it's going to be a little different, right?
Well, therein lies, the spectator, right? Is this about your child, or is it about you? Because you're going to go to tournaments, and your kid's going to be involved in things where that organization that you go to play, or the tournament you go to, they might say one parent per child. They might say no parents, only coaches.
Right.
We have to really step back and realize, okay, our kid is still going to enjoy it even if we can't watch them. It's not about us. And I would love to watch my kids play. I absolutely love it. It's the best part of my day. But if I don't get to, because that's just the rule, I can't share that with my child. They should not know that I'm upset about it, because it's okay for me to not be there. They can enjoy the time without me there.
And
So
sometimes they might enjoy it more without the parents. So that's a whole
well,
nother issue,
well,
right?
that's
But
yes, that
yeah,
is.
no, absolutely.
Administrators are probably loving that idea that no
Yeah.
spectators, no
Well,
spectators.
so I did a coaches training for a group down in San Jose, California. And it was interesting to me because I started mentioning to the league, now this is a training across the board. And I said, look, here's what we're going to do. For your precautions based on the facilities you're at, don't allow anybody in the bleachers. Have them bring their own chairs and be in the outfield around the surroundings. And you should have seen some of these coaches like, yeah, man, that's the best idea ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and that goes back to what are your league and your team rules and protocols. We as adults need to take the lead and make sure, even at practice, when I pull up to pick up my son, I don't get out of the car.
right.
He comes to me. We don't want to create groups, clusters where somebody could see us and they're not wearing their mask, and now
Right.
somebody tells the school district or tells whoever owns the facility that
Right.
we're not following a rule. So we can do some things as adults, to keep our distance and
Right.
make sure that it still works for the kids.
So yeah, there's Karens out there, so keep your eye out for everybody.
Well, and that's the statistically, it is not being spread through schools or through athletics. It's
Right.
being spread during social.
Right.
So it's the 300 people that come to watch the 15 kids play
Right.
that we're not social distance. So we need to take a step back and realize this is for the kids.
Right.
Let's let them play and get the heck out of the way.
Well, and when we grew up, we played without parents there anyways most of the time. And you know what? It was a heck of a lot more fun. So hopefully we can maybe allow that procedure to happen. All right. So as a parent, I know you and I, one of our last chats was actually about communication, right?
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the why. What else do you want to convey to the kids? What else do you want to make sure that they get as they go back out there? And I know you believe are big on communication, but talk a little bit about that process with what you're going to do with your kids and what you think we need to be doing out there.
Well, I think, the realistic expectations and, the COVID protocols are a piece of it, right? But now we want to get back to what the game really is, because there's certain things now in the game that we're not going to do. We're not going to do the high fives after the game, and
Right.
so what are we going to do? We're going to tip the hat. We're going to do different things so that they know what's going on. But realistically, it's just getting them back to some normal activity, right? That fitness level that most of them are probably not at right now.
Right. Yeah.
So being positive with them and talking about, look, this is some of the things you're going to come across. You might play a team, or you might see somebody who isn't following the rules.
Yeah.
But you're going to continue to follow the rules. We're still going to do it the right way and follow the rules and the guidelines. There's none of that, well, they're not doing it, why do I have to do it, stuff going on. So I think just trying to be honest with them. Kids are smart, right? They're going to figure things out. So I think we just need to be honest with our kids and honest with how we're doing things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, I want to make sure I have a plan. You know what I mean? Because I think it is going to look different. And if you don't think it's going to look different, you haven't done this long enough. It's going to be different. And even the dugout might be different. You know what I mean? The bench might be different in a basketball game, volleyball, whatever the case is. Like you said, it's not going to be high fives. It's not going to be all that. So, I think as a parent, we got to really do our homework with the league to find out, but communicate with the kids. I think, you know what, let's at the very least, let's start real tight on exactly what we're doing. And then let's see where it morphs to. But I do believe you're right. If we go out there and we just kind of free fall, it's not that big of a deal. I think what's going to happen is it could get shut down in a hurry. We've seen just even in different states where something happens and it's not that big of a deal. They open things up, and then guess what? 6 weeks later, they shut everything down and it's worse. Yeah. So as a parent, you have a responsibility to communicate to your kid, and let's follow the rules.
I think the spectators and the parents are the biggest group that are going to spread the virus.
Yeah.
So what we really have to be aware of that it's not going to happen on the fields because they're wearing masks and they're cleaning everything and the coaches are keeping them separated.
Right.
It's really the people in the outfield and around the area that are going to be the problem. So if there's a contact at a tournament, it's going to trace back to us.
Right.
And eventually that's not going to be good for the kids, right?
No, not at all. So if I'm, let's say you're coaching my kid, excuse me, and I've got a concern about COVID, whatever it is, how do you want me to express that with the coaches? Because I think parents, you know what? You better talk to the coaches, but there's a way and a time and a place. So how do we build that communication from the parent to the coach?
Yeah. Well, again, it's that preemptive meeting, right? It's the time of everybody getting together, coach laying out their expectations and
Okay.
how they want to handle that stuff. Just like with playing time or with anything else, if there's a question or concern, let us know. But you also have an added deal here, right? Because you might have the family that's concerned because they heard that somebody else on the team has a grandparent who is tested positive.
Right.
So there's got to be some open dialogue and communication so that people know, hey, when can I reach you? How can I reach you if I have a concern or a question? And everybody needs to know too, from a coaching standpoint, I've got to be free and open, right? If a kid says, hey, I'm not coming to practice today because I'm concerned about something, or the kid has a symptom or a parent has a symptom,
Right.
we're going to hold them out for the day. I've got to be willing as a coach to be like, all right, that doesn't mean you're going to have to sit the bench in our next game,
Right.
because
Right.
we have to be sympathetic and empathetic to everyone's concerns one way or the other. We have to be able to listen, and that's usually when people have problems, right? They just want to talk and they need somebody to listen. They don't necessarily need something to change,
Right.
but you need to be a sympathetic ear and sit and listen to people. But I think a lot of things, if you just talk about it up front, the uncomfortable things,
Right.
if you talk about it, you won't have those problems as you go through the season.
So, okay. And make sure that, if it's something that can be discussed in front of everybody, great. And if it's not, then just have the one-on-one conversation and develop that kind of relationship with the coach. It's better for your child. And it's much better, just like it would be anything else we've talked about before, rather than making a scene,
Yeah.
right? And going forward. I will say, as an ex-referee, one thing I think is important as we go forward is that from the league standpoint, when I refereed a game, I always said, look, here's your coach's box. Use it, don't abuse it, and we'll have a great game. I'll answer reasonable questions reasonably. And you know what? It worked pretty good.
Yeah.
But I saw guys that didn't reference that coach's box. And then coaches were all over the place. And the ref would come back and go, how come you're not in the coach's box? You go, what coach's box? And so I think we have to take the responsibility from the league standpoint of saying, here's where it's going to be. So let's talk from the league down, right? So the league, you got a baseball league, you got a baseball player. So tell me, how can they convey confidence, and how should the league kind of convey this information to the coaches and to the families about what's happening?
Well, you start with those expectations, right? So if the league has the expectations that everyone's wearing masks, everyone's doing temperature checks and symptom checks before practices, before games, you have to also put in there, what are the guidelines if somebody refuses to do those things or doesn't want to do them or doesn't pass it, right? What do you do when the kid shows up and you do the temperature check and it's 101?
Right.
What are the guidelines? So you have to be prepared, right? You have to, you got to be the Boy Scout, the Eagle Scout who's prepared for anything that happens.
Right.
And you can't hold someone accountable for something if you didn't tell them this is what was going to happen. I do it all the time with a coach or an athlete when they go, well, coach is going to do this. Well, did they tell you were going to get kicked off the team if you did that? Well, yeah. Okay, then you went and did it? Yeah. Well, why are you here? You knew that was the guideline, right?
Right.
So you've got to have those clear expectations. That's when you have problems, is when people just arbitrarily throw out, well, this is going to happen now. Well, you can't. So it's the same thing. If somebody tests positive, if a mom of a kid on the team is positive, what's the protocol? What's the guideline?
Okay.
Just like, leagues would have the rule if a parent's yelling and screaming at an umpire, right? What's the rule? What do you do with that person? What happens? So you try and be preemptive as much as you can.
I think to add to that, I feel like now that there should be in writing information that goes out, whether it's online or whatnot. So as a parent, you're accepting a responsibility to check off, I understand this is going to happen and this is going to happen and we're going to wear masks and we're going to do this.
Yep.
So that, again, there's a reference point. Because to me, too often, we all know what a stop sign means, right? If you've driven, you know that, right? But we have to have that reference point. So for me, if I'm running a league, I'm going to make sure that, yes, it's going to be communicated, may even be emailed, but you know as well as I do, email goes out, you don't know if they read it or not. So I think I would make sure if I'm running a league that they go to the website, they check, or paper, however you're going to do it, that these are the guidelines that are now. What parent guidelines, whatever it is, you've signed these, which include you're not going to act like a jackass from the sideline,
Yeah.
but these are the other things that are included, right?
Well, that's what you have to do when you get on an airplane, right? When you buy the ticket for the airplane, you check off that I'm going to wear a mask, I'm going to follow the FAA guidelines, and if I don't,
Yeah.
I'm off the plane. So you can do those things.
No
You
refund, right?
with
You're
no
not.
refund.
That's right.
We can start to add those things into what we're doing, and we probably will eventually be there with COVID, where it's either a, hey, you either get vaccinated or you're signing off this hold harmless, right? That's where we're going to end up at some point with people who don't want to get vaccinated. They're going to have to opt out of suing, an organization for something.
Yes.
So
No, I
yeah.
see that coming. So, all right. So from the league point again, now we've done a good job. I think, okay, we're prepared. So now what about training and having the conversation with the staff and the coaches? Like you must, I mean, you guys have obviously at your school, I'd imagine you've had some conversations, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you're hoping everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing when no one's looking, right? And they're in better care when they're under the watchful eye of a coach, because a coach can, put your mask on, it's the mask police,
Right.
So you again have to trust your staff and trust the people that you're working with, that they're doing and following the guidelines. But you also have to let them know, hey, if you're not, and we find out, if you're the coach, the dad volunteer to coach the Little League baseball team, we find out that you're kind of, well, it's okay, we don't have to put the mask on. We're going to come back and your entire team might not be allowed to play.
Right.
So we really have to have that big buy-in and that trickle down so that people understand, and parents and coaches need to know the why, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of if they like the rule again or not, they have to know the why, and we have to jump through the hoops. I mean,
And the why may, even though it ultimately is about the safety of the kids, the why might also be, dude, if you don't do this, we can't have a league. You know what I mean? So yes, there's different levels of why. I also think, again, I'm a clinic guy. I think it's really important that they have some specific clinics, particularly on how to run practices and how to run games and how to organize a structure, because it is going to change. We spent time talking about it today, right?
Yeah.
So they better have a plan for when your team arrives, right? Like, okay, let's say it's a basketball game, right? And there's teams that are playing and your team's coming in. Where are they going to go? Do they need to stay outside? Well, in some locations it's freezing and whatever. So don't show up 20 minutes early. You can only show up at game time. And when you're done, get your stuff and get out. I mean, there's different protocols, right? Yeah. And then also training the specifics of how you run practices. If it's a basketball and you're in the gym, you may have to do your Coach Wooden warm-ups or our SBQ warm-ups and keep them separate and do those things to protect the kids, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those things, again, going back to what facility are you using? Is it private or is it public? There are different guidelines. And even the private ones still need to follow your state and local guidelines, right?
Right.
And if you don't, you're going to get a phone call, you're going to get shut down or fined. You're going to have those protocols. So you're going to have to change. You might not be able to play basketball games at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. You might have to put a time in between to usher everyone out, clean the facility, usher the next group in. So you again have to be prepared for those things and communicating that out to the coaches, like you're saying. But that's probably the biggest change. You were talking earlier about changes of what the game will look like. Your practices are different. Right. You're not just full on 5-on-5 basketball right away the first day. Right. You're small group workouts. And that's what the college teams are doing. There's small group workouts that are a little bit larger, and we're going to be testing, and most colleges are testing. You're not going to test in youth sports. So you have to follow those small group things, or you risk the tracing when somebody does get sick.
Yeah, it's coming.
The entire group is going to be gone. So it's smart to do the tracing.
Well, and it's not, it's not what we have to convey. It's not worth the risk. No. I mean, the short is, there's a group in a community not too far from us that had 3 teams that decided to do their own thing and not worry about the guidelines. And then they all went together to a different state and played in a tournament. 56 people went, 31 came back with COVID. Doesn't make any sense, right? So at some point, you got to look at the risk versus reward. As a league, you have to understand the legalities is one part of it. Shutting the league down is one part of it. God forbid somebody dies, right? So there's a lot of different components. I was speaking with a coach from Colorado, a football coach, who said it's the same thing. Now that we're aware of what's going on with concussions, we've changed our football practices, right? We're not practicing. Yeah, they're wearing the helmets, but we're not going combat, right? We're doing fundamental, and then when they get to the game, they get their component of that. But other than that, we're steering away from all that. The spacing is different, the coach is different, everything possible. And if you're an indoor sport, you're going to be treated different than an outdoor sport. Expect that.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Right? Because these gyms, I don't care where you're at, these gyms aren't buying $20,000 systems to put in hybrid air systems and all. It's just not happening. It may eventually happen, but that's not happening right now. So as a league, you can only do so much. But I think what I would say is, look, as someone who's run over 250,000 kids through our sports programs, you know what I mean? We've done it a long time. We know that if we follow the guidelines and the rules, forget COVID, anytime, right? We know if you do certain things a certain way, the kids are safer, your coaches are safer, they're going to have more fun ultimately, and you don't have to worry about lawsuits and all these other factors that are there. So we just have to kind of buy into that for now. I do believe over time that it will relinquish back, but I think we may see for a long time, if you're a fan in a game in a gym, you might be wearing a mask. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is unprecedented times, right? And it's one of those things, like in statistics, you can make an error one or two ways, right? We can say right now, masks don't make a difference. Okay,
Right.
we could, if that was true, that could be one side of the truth, or we could say they absolutely make a difference. Well, for me, I would rather err on the side of I think they do make a difference, so I'm just going to wear it, because guess what? If it's not true and they don't make a difference, what was the harm of me having it? But if I don't wear a mask and I don't clean and wash my hands, and that's actually exactly how it spreads, well, then I've made a huge mistake, right? And that right there, to me, logically, it doesn't make any sense. If you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you have cancer, and you go to another doctor and find out, well, yeah, you have cancer, do you just keep going until you find someone who tells you that you don't? No, you take the advice and you roll with it. And you know, at our school, we have a former AD who was here 38 years, and one of the best things he's ever told me was, don't ever get a rule named after you. Which means don't do something so stupid that we go, you can't do that. Oh, I didn't know, it's not written down anywhere. What do you mean I can't do that? Well, now we have to create a rule that says you can't do what you're doing. And that's where we're at in our society, right? Everybody knows you shouldn't be on your cell phone when you drive. You shouldn't be texting and driving. You shouldn't. But we have to make a rule because people don't follow it and they kill other people. So that's why we have to wear masks, because people don't understand, like, take care of the person next to you.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, then everyone's taking care of each other. But we get too much of this selfish mentality.
It's the blinders, and it's all about us. Yeah.
All about us, the social media, the instant gratification. Things take time. We have to care about other people and worry about other people. Like, I'm not in a risk factor, right? I'm in my mid 40s. I exercise. I've never had any issues. But I wear a mask because I might get it and give it to my mom who's in her 70s, who's recovered from breast cancer.
There you go.
Like, that's why I'm wearing a mask.
Right.
So if we can try and move past that and understand that it's not people just trying to, oppress us, just do it. It's not a bad deal.
Unfortunately, there's the risk versus reward, and there's also those that, for whatever political whatever the visions are. But ultimately, I think we're all about, especially if you're involved with leagues, it's got to be about the kids. All right, let's think with coaches. So if you see a kid in distress, you see a kid that's uncomfortable, right? That's stressed about this or whatnot. How are we going to address this? How are we going to approach these kids that are still? I mean, there's a lot of kids with social and emotional challenges now. They're coming back out. They maybe have been inside by themselves and not around people for a long time, and now they're playing again. So as a coach, when that kid's come out, what are you going to do? How are we going to deal with that?
Well, I think, again, trying to be proactive, depending on the age, having those conversations like, hey guys, I know this is your first time back. It's been a long time. It's been 9-12 months for you. We're going to take this slow. If any of you have any concerns or any questions as we go, please let me know. If you need a safe place, we're going to have, if you ever need to just take a break, here's the designated spot. You can go over and sit down, or, everybody's got when you show up, you put your backpacks and your waters in your designated area. You get a hula hoop or something. This is Johnny's area. Right. So if you ever need a break, I just walk to your area and have a seat and relax. So being up front with them and letting them know that that's the deal, and they have that out if they want to go do that, they can pause. Then once that happens and I see the kid go, I've got to get the team going in their exercise or what they're doing. And then I've got to go over and have a conversation and just check on, the kids, say, hey, what's going on? Well, and just listen. Again, you're listening, what's happening, what's going on, get involved and listen to the kid and find out what their issue might be. But I think really being proactive and letting them know that they have a safe environment. We talk about safe physically,
Right.
but safe emotionally, to take a break when they need a break, they got to be able to do that. But again, that goes back to your communication with parents. Hey, parents, if any of you have concerns or your child does, please communicate ahead of time so I'm prepared and I know what's going on.
Exactly.
That I think we have to have that conversation. The kids need to know that they can, raise their hand, they can walk off if they need to, they can take a break if they need to take a break.
I remember Dr. Earl from Sonoma State teaching. He told me that when it's a complaint from a child, it's legitimate until you've investigated and found that it's not.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a perfect example of that. And right now, we have to be not ultra sensitive, but ultra aware,
Yes,
conscious that it's going to happen, and it's there, and how we go forward that for whatever reason we go forward.
Yeah.
So with the dialogue being different a little bit, you got any suggestions or tips in terms of how coaches would talk with kids or with parents and that? I mean, I know you and I are big, well, texting works and whatnot. Just talk to somebody, right? But in this scenario, got any tips about like how are you doing with your coaches and how are they doing it? How does that communication working?
well, it's funny you say the text and the email. You have to have clear definition of what's appropriate for text and email. A practice time change, or I'm going to be, my kid's going to be 5 minutes late because I'm running late. That's a text. That's not a big deal. But
Right.
the higher level, anything higher level than that needs to be, hey, coach, can I set up a time to talk to you? My child needs to talk to you, or same thing from the coach. Hey, Johnny's mom, can I talk to you for a few minutes after practice today? It's got to be face to face, or it's got to be on the phone. We really our problems with communication is, we've said this before, it's miscommunication and misinterpreting or assuming things. And that happens in text and email. I cannot tell you how often that happens with me supervising, 15 coaches, 30 assistant coaches, all these athletes. It's because somebody misinterpreted what someone else emailed or text.
Right.
And it's like, we got to hang up the phones on the text and the email and just pick up the phone and talk to people.
Right.
And you're right, COVID has probably given us, more reason to text.
Right.
And
Yeah.
email.
Yeah.
And really, we've got to get rid of that. I had a colleague today suggest he wanted to try and get his entire school to do no email Tuesdays, where you literally could not send an email to anybody on a Tuesday. Just block it and turn it off.
Sign me up for that one.
Yeah, make people use the phone. And I really think, I've heard other people say, if you can't do it in 3 sentences, it needs to be a phone call. And I've caught myself with emails, and I get halfway through it and I delete it and I pick up the phone because I'm like, this is not an email. I could solve this in 30 seconds on the phone.
Right.
So I think anytime you're talking about kids, it's got to be a phone call, right? It's got to be a face-to-face. They're our most important commodity. We should be having adult conversations with other people face-to-face or on a phone call with other adults.
So there's a list here of 9 things that we use at the National Academy of Athletics that can help. And these were not only just COVID related, these were kind of across the board. But I want to read through the list real quick just so you guys can get this. But so question 1 for me, if my child's going to play again, is what amount of close contact does my sport avail? Meaning, if it's soccer, they're going to be playing face-to-face basketball, where if I have concerns, I want to know those things, right? Yeah. So that's one. Is the venue indoor or outdoor? I know, right? Is there, it seems nuts, but that's a simple question to figure out. We're running basketball camps and we're doing them outdoors nowadays in some locations, and that's okay too. Right now, everybody says as much outdoors as you can, which I think we all agree is not a bad thing anyways, but no. Right. What are the equipment and common area restrictions or guidelines, right? So if I'm going to a gym or I'm going to a field, what are the rules? What's going on? As a league, you should be putting this information out there. But as a parent, if it's not there, find out, because in this case, what you don't know could actually come back to bite you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any travel, especially outside of our community? Are we going to be going other places and dealing with, God forbid, out of state, but at least, excuse me, other cities or other towns or other potential places where we're going to have to be with more folks? Do you have any family members that are at high risk? If I got someone at high risk, I'm not going to watch the game, and I'm going to have to find a way my son to be able to play and take care of that before they come home, right?
Yeah.
Knowing those things. Are there protocols, safety protocols in place? Now we got to add COVID for the league. Like you said, what's communicated? What happens if? What's the communication standpoint? The text in that scenario is you can instantly let everybody know, hey, this is what happened, Johnny, that. So we have that communication.
Yeah.
What is the mask rule, right? Is the coach going to wear a mask? Are the kids going to wear the mask? Are the parents, fans? Is there, all that, right? All those little things. You got to know these things, and they got to communicate. To your point, in my opinion, get them out early so everybody understands that stuff. Are fans allowed at the games? If not, what are the requirements if they are, right? Where can we sit? Where can we not? And, you can't fight City Hall in this case. You can, but ultimately, if they see you can't sit there, you can't sit there, right? No matter what you want to do. Last one is the program or league providing sanitizing, disinfectant supplies. Like, who's supplying those things? Because they cost money and you got to get them there. But without them, the honor system is not necessarily the best way to go in these scenarios, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think everyone would agree. We're willing to do just about anything to let our kids play, right? If you told me I had to wear the alien outfit from Michael J. Fox wore in Back to the Future, to watch my kid play, I'd wear it. I'd go buy one and probably wear it,
Yeah.
So I think we just need to, certain people have roles and they're making those rules. And when they make them, I think we just follow along and we follow them. And if we want to complain about it, we complain about it, but we follow them while we're complaining about it to the right authority. That's how you do things.
And unfortunately, it's bigger than just my family. It's the team. But you know what? Ben, you've said this before. What a great lesson for our community to learn and our kids to be able to learn as they go forward. I got two questions from parents. I know we're wrapping up on time.
Yeah.
I know you got stuff going too. But so this is a parent, Samantha. She's a mom from Riverside, California. She asks, I have been a volunteer coach for over 4 years. I want to know how I'll be assured that it's safe through my league for my kids to go out there. And how can I help as a coach? And if they're not making us feel comfortable, but I still want my daughter to play, what do I do?
Yeah, that's tough, right? I mean, how do you, if you're not comfortable because people aren't following the guidelines,
Right.
there's got to be a way for people like that to be able to anonymously tip the organization off.
Right.
And the organization has got to be able to have repercussions or reprimand or whatever it is, consequences. If these are the guidelines, these are the rules, then everyone in the group has to adhere to them. Not like any other thing, like the coach's box.
Right.
If I'm in my box and the other guy's always out of his box, I'm looking at you as the referee going, hey man,
Yeah.
I'm in my box, get that guy, So I think as a parent, we have to feel comfortable and know and ask the question, hey, you gave me all this information. You told us all what the rules are. What do I do as a parent if I see someone not following the rules? What is my mode of communicating back to the league to complain or make you aware of somebody not following the rules?
Yeah, Samantha, it sounds like you're not going to coach this year, and I understand for your own how you feel about it. But yeah, you're going to have to follow through. And the other part is, if you're super not comfortable with it, you gotta pull away.
Yeah, and that again is a great lesson to teach your kid. If you want to tell your kid, like, listen, you're not going to play in this league because they're not following the protocols that we believe. So we're standing up for our belief of what we think should be right. And what we're doing. And then the other side of it would be too, you still let them play and you follow all the rules and all the guidelines, and you teach your child, hey, listen, we're doing this and you're going to do it the right way. And sometimes, guess what? You're going to be around people who are not doing it the right way. And that's okay. You have to understand that sometimes you're going to do it the right way and other people aren't. And there's nothing you can do. You can't control them. You can only.
It's really going to be up to, for her particularly, Samantha, it's really going to be up to you and how you decide how you want to play that. But I think Mike's given some good ideas there in terms of how to make sure you communicate. And it is about your own individual safety. All right. So Elizabeth is a mom from Richmond, California, down in the Bay Area. She says, we have drilled in my son about staying safe. We've been extremely safe. His private school's been safe. Everything's been safe. He's very aware of bringing COVID home, as I guess her parents live with them, and they're older parents.
Yeah.
So any suggestions to help him feel more comfortable about going back to school and starting to play again, because he's nervous about it now. And it sounds like, Elizabeth, you did a good job, but you've also put the fear of God, so to speak, in him and saying, hey, we have to do these things, right? There's more detail in that. She says when they come home, they have a room and they disrobe before they come in the house. I mean, the whole deal. She would get as far as they clean out the groceries, the whole deal. So how do you break down that pattern of that? Hey, okay, now we can go back out and do it again.
Well, I think, educating him on all those things you're just talking about and how important it is for him to follow those protocols. And when the practice is over, he doesn't go with his buddies and take their masks off and hang out in the parking lot together or sit in a car together, that he has a responsibility to the grandparents to follow all those things. And when he gets home, he doesn't go touching everything. So it's a great opportunity, really. And we're talking about cleaning too. So let's talk about a teenager cleaning, right?
Yeah, right.
It's a great opportunity to teach kids how to clean and what to clean and what things they should be using and how they should be cleaning things, and even cleaning their clothes, washing your mask every day.
Right.
Technically, you're supposed to wash your mask and not use it if you take it off once.
Right.
That's what CDC will tell you. You get rid of it as soon as you touch it once.
Wow.
So I think for him, knowing, it's pretty cool to have that responsibility and have something that personal to him, that he is aware of all those guidelines and he's going to follow through on all those guidelines every single day. You have the board with the checkoff list. This is what I have to do when I get home. This is where I leave my bag. This is where I put things, so that my grandparents are safe and everybody's getting taken care of. I think,
plus, like you say, which I love, and we're both in the same place, it's a great learning opportunity. These are skills, whether on whatever level they're going to be able to use against, right? So,
well, and that young man, what a great opportunity for him at practice. If other kids see him with the hand sanitizer and everything, somebody goes, hey man, why are you, because inevitably, why are you always so crazy about, doing it? And he can go, listen, I have 2 grandparents that are home that are older and I'm really concerned about them. So I would appreciate if you also would do these things with me, because if you're sick and I get it, I could take it home. So the kid could be an advocate. You could educate that young man to go out in the community and share why he's trying to do it.
great opportunity. Cool. All right. Well, once again, I appreciate you spending time, and those of you that are paying attention, and hopefully you're getting some great information from this. You've got a great Facebook page. I really think that in a couple of ways, I think these guys got to maybe embrace that. You want to tell them where they can get?
It's supporting student athletes. You can find me on Facebook and like it and share it, and hopefully, friend it and all that. And I have my own personal one too. Usually I post things on both spots, but supporting student athletes, I try and give tips and information. I do parent clinics and talk to parents about how they can support their kids and coaches. And really what we're talking about today is when we have a crisis, right? We have this huge pandemic. It is a crisis, worldwide crisis. And we have to decide we can either be part of the solution or we can be part of the problem. So we can make it more difficult and we can whine and complain about, oh, we have to clean, we have to wear a mask, blah, blah, or we can embrace it. And we can just go, yep, this is what we're doing. We're going to do it. And we're going full forward, following as many guidelines as we can to help us be safe. But if anybody wants to check out the Facebook page, I love it. Like it, share it with other people, and follow it. I appreciate it. And you can find me on there and contact me directly if you want to.
Great. Yeah. I love the fact that it's almost timely with what you've got going on. And as those posts come through, I share them all the time, as you've seen in that. Thanks. So I appreciate that. If you want to find more about the National Academy of Athletics or connect with us, info@naofa.us, send us an email. Obviously all the social media, the Facebook and all the other, you can catch us there. A lot of opportunity. And if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do that as well. Mike, I've got 2 other topics that have kind of come through. So I'm gonna bug you next week and we'll kind of get back going again. So you guys will get to see Mike again. I always love that we get to have the dialogue, and we always like to leave with talk, teach, play, remind everybody, and especially now safely when you get your kids back out there, remind them to go out there and play, and remember to play hard and have fun. So appreciate your time, Mike. Thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.
Take care.